Hello and welcome to the Freedom Seeker Show. I'm your host, Yvonne Winkler, CEO of Lotus Consulting, an organization with the mission to support women's well-being through empowerment, harmony, and collaboration. And I'm here today with my really good friend, Vanessa Christensen. She is a Freedom Seeker member, and she is also the CEO of Adopted Tomato. And as someone who has always been surrounded by fresh ingredients, where she comes from, great cuisine, and even better company, Vanessa understands the connection between food and the people and the places around them. And her meals, which are so yum, yum, yum presentation and delicious, her meals create experiences that allow people to celebrate each other and with every bite they take. So I'm so thrilled to have you here, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us for this conversation today on the Freedom Seeker Show. We have a really edgy subject today, which I'm so excited, especially to crack with you, Vanny, because
Yeah.
um, I just want to give the viewers a bit of a background. Vanessa and I met years ago at a food function, actually, where we got to experience a chef preparing this amazing meal for us, and it was a fundraiser, I believe we went to. It was phenomenal, and Vanessa and I sat across from each other and hit it off right away, and we have since, I don't think, stopped having really deep, meaningful conversations. And this is one of the things I love so much about you, because we we sure we can talk about the weather, but we both just love it going deep into these conversations. So I have to always be mindful when I call Vanny, because our conversations are not just 5 minutes long; they usually end up being several hours. So I always have to make a mental note to see, okay, what do I have going on around that time. So I'm really thrilled you're here, because I wouldn't want to have this conversation with really anyone else but you, at least to start with. And I want to say to our viewers that this is an invitation for you to listen and listen for how this affects you, and how feminism, which is what we're talking about today, plays out in your life. So this is an invitation to for you to look at, what does feminism mean to you? How does it play out in your life? Do you agree? Do you disagree with what Vanny and I are going to be talking about today? And then leave your comments, because this is how I would love going forward to create these conversations and these dialogues. Because I think one thing we both agree on is that we can only bring change forward if we're actually talking about it, and if we have open dialogue
Hmm.
around these things. Right,
Yeah.
Vanessa? Okay.
100%.
Yeah. So one more thing before I'm gonna give the floor to Vanessa here, is I want to contain this, because feminism is such a big topic, and there are so many angles we can take on this. I I really want to keep it to in the container of how feminism um, plays out in partnership, and in specifically
Hmm.
our partnerships with our significant others, and equal partnership. So I want to talk about interdependence versus independence. And Vanessa and I had this conversation as I was going to the motor vehicle registration office, and I had lots of time in the car to wait for my appointment. And I said, we need to talk about this. This is really important, because I believe I'm not the only one that struggles with how I am feeling guilty about my husband's contribution as a caregiver in this relationship, and my contribution into this relationship. So let's start
Hmm.
there. Feminism, defined as most of us probably know, but I just wanted to give us a little bit of a background on it again, is the advocacy of women's rights on a basis of equality of the sexes, and the belief that social, economic, and political equality needs to exist within the sexes. So from
Hmm.
that, Vanessa, let's open up this can of worms. And I'll ask you, how do you specifically feel about uh, feminism and how it might have been misguided in today's society?
Well, I think that's the question, right? So I'm very passionately believe that feminism is equality. But it's the ability for us to have choice. We have the same choice, right? So that's the opportunities we both have are equal. Just doesn't mean that because I'm a woman, I'm in this box, and because you're a man, you're in that box.
Mhm.
Feminism to me is an equal opportunity to do the chosen roles that we wish to play. And choice is like all caps, like for me through feminism. So freedom of choice. And I think
Mhm.
somewhere along the way, as women, at least in my experience, we've been told because we have the choice to do things that we were restricted from having choices from years ago. We now have these equal opportunities, air quotes. Um, Somehow we're supposed to do them all, and we're supposed to dominate in all of them to show that we are worthy of this space that we have now been permitted to occupy,
Mhm.
which is just the most mind numbing thing. And yet, that is what I find I was exposed to as a single mom, as a sole parent, single parent. Single parent and single mom are two different things. Um, so to be all for one person and doing it all, and then forming a
Mhm.
partnership, having a blended family, and all of a sudden having my role being the working outside of the home, generating my own revenue, maintaining my own home, the independent woman, poster child for feminism, the complete backwards poster child for feminism.
Mhm.
And then figuring out how to merge in with my husband and still have value and not feel like I've sold myself up the river, right? Based to the societal norms, because that is what I was accused of. Like, why would I be at home allowing a man to tell me how it's going to be and depend on him, blah, blah,
Yeah,
infuriates me
yeah,
because that goes against the grain of what is happening in this house. But
right,
is the
right.
farthest thing from what's happening in this house.
So let's
Yeah.
unpack that a little bit. So going back to something you said earlier, and you air quoted, or no, even further than that, you said all the roles that women, because we have choice today,
Hmm.
all of these roles that we play. Can you expand a bit on that? What you meant by that? Like, what? How does that play
Yeah.
out?
Well, I think right now there's this obscene expectation that we are supposed to be CEOs and like mothers, like so the best mom and the best wife and the best entrepreneur or the leader of the CEO chapter. We're supposed to be striving for elite status in
Hmm.
every single role we agree to take on.
Right.
And I think that's the most unrealistic thing you could possibly do to yourself.
But why is it that we have this expectation to be elite in all of these things, like the best mom, the best CEO, the best leader?
I think that's what we do to each other. I think as
Ah,
women, we put that pressure on one another because the judgment that I have always felt has been from women. It's
hmm.
not been,
Not from the men.
ironically, from the men.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's been from the women. And,
OMG.
yeah, like as a single mom, my poor child was deprived because I wasn't home enough. And then you flip it over and it's, I'm home all the time. Well, now I'm just, must be nice to bake cookies all day. Um, it's
By the way, this
unbelievable.
is exactly what she has been told. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
something she's making up. Vanessa's making
No,
up.
these are the
Yeah,
words that have
yeah.
been said to my face. It's or behind my back, that come to light, right? But yeah, you know, we're not, we I think for me in the position I'm in right now, I recognize that this is a really privileged partnership that I'm in with my spouse, that we are in the position that we can make choices
Hmm.
for ourselves, what makes us happy. We're not bound by the monetary need to figure out, how we're going to balance our lives, both of us working, distribution of chores, distribution of childcare, all of that stuff.
Hmm.
We're able to say one income will sustain our family. Who wants to make it? And that's the key. Who? I mean, he could have chosen to be the one to be at home and
Hmm.
done the caregiving and the homemaking, and I could have gone out. That's what feminism is. That means either of us could be the breadwinner. Choose which one you want, And in our home, he chose to maintain that.
To be
And
the
let's be
income earner.
clear,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's just, he's providing the monetary ability for us to
Yeah.
sustain our lives. But really, I mean, the work is here. He'll be the first to tell you he can succeed at his job because I'm here supporting, the family and taking things on that he doesn't have to worry about now. He can just focus on what he wants to do outside of the home, and I can focus on what I want to do within the home. And
Hmm.
it's a perfect marriage. It
Hmm.
really is.
Hmm.
And I don't feel that I am lesser than because I'm not drawing an external paycheck, because I'm not,
Has that
running to
always
work
been
every
the way?
morning. Nope, nope. It took 3 attempts. I
Right. So
had to
tell us a
I
bit more
had to
about
come
that.
home.
Because this is, I think, where interdependence versus independence really plays out for me. And if I could just inject there, um,
Hmm.
I grew up believing that the only way to hold up women's rights or women's equality is by being independent. And I
Hmm.
literally, in my mind's eye, because I'm a visual person, picture this, this woman holding up this flag and standing on the mountaintop and saying, like, I've gotten here all by myself, on my own. I did it all by myself. And
Hmm.
realizing that that is complete and utter bullshit. No
Hmm.
one makes it alone. Um,
Hmm.
and if they do, it comes at a really high cost. And
Absolutely.
that is something I'm just not prepared to pay forward anymore. I thought that that's what it took, but it doesn't. So, and I'm speaking specifically about burnout. I don't want to. I want to be clear. It's wholeheartedly burnout for many women. It's disease and illnesses that flat
Hmm.
put them flat on their back. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about these three attempts, because I think therein really lies the key to understanding what interdependence means and how you got to this place of being able to stand now here and say, I don't feel less than because I'm working out of the home, or I'm taking care of the house and I'm taking care of the family, part of this partnership. Um,
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. How did you get there?
Well, the first attempt at being at home came as a result of a layoff situation. So I was, you know, given the opportunity. My husband was said, "Well, let's take this opportunity and have you be at home with the kids, help blend the family." We had just recently moved in together, and I
And
thought
how did
that'd
you
be
feel
good.
when he said that?
I was kind
The
of like,
original, the first time, like that first
the first
time.
time, I was like, "Cool, this has never been this never has been an option for me
Right.
before." So I was kind of, excited to take that on. And then very soon into it, I realized that I didn't have, babies at home that were occupying my days, morning, noon, and night. My kids were older and they were in school. So I was home. I went immediately into isolation. I went immediately into financial, I guess I had to, we had to discuss money. Like, I'm not making any, I don't have any
Right.
money coming into me. So how am I going to deal with asking for money? Like, how do I how does this
and just to
how does
give
this work?
background, Vanessa has been a single mom and single parent for up until that point. So her daughter was already grown up. I don't know specifically how old she was, but when this particular scenario that we're discussing right now came about, but that's why she wasn't a toddler anymore. You had already done this all on your own up until that point, right? So you've earned your own money, you had your own bank account, and now all of a sudden you're like, how am I going to ask for X amount of dollars to go to the hairdresser or to buy myself these jeans or to like
It was crazy.
get gas?
Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. Like it was completely insane, and we hadn't thought about it. Like neither of us thought about this.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I'm home and I'm thinking, hold on, I have a lifestyle that I am very accustomed to that doesn't require permission or, frankly, doesn't require compromise. Because I was a one woman band, I was this independent person, had my own home. My daughter was 11 when I finally moved in, and his daughter at the time was 4, and she was my step. So she was 1 week on, 1 week off. So we had this little interesting setup, and immediately the judgment came down the pipe, like
From
almost immediate from other women. Immediately, it was, I was viewed as the gold digger. The minute I met the man, I immediately stopped working and started living off his coattails. And must be nice to just sit at home, do nothing all day, because my kids were in school. And, it was this isolating. You'd go to a party and everyone would say, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And the minute I said, oh, well, I'm at home, I became irrelevant to the conversation. I had nothing to contribute to the crew. So it
so
became
they
this
just
very,
turned and had a conversation with someone else. Like
yeah,
no
it
no
was
more questions followed. Like no interest. Yeah.
no interest at all.
Yeah.
It was super interesting. And,
Hmm.
I walked away from that going, God, I can't do this. I have to go back to work. I am not fulfilled. My bucket is empty. I have to go back to work.
How
So
long were you was that?
18 months
Okay, so
was all I allowed. Yeah.
almost 2 years. Yeah.
Almost 2 years. Yep.
Yeah.
And in that time, I mean, let's face it, I did what many of us do. I tried to make sure that I had intrinsic value. So I redid the home and I repainted everything and I upkept everything and I did all the
Yep.
things, right? To just make sure
Yeah.
that I was contributing. I
Right.
had, there was value here, Bob, you're getting what you pay for. And,
Hmm.
and then, yeah, the money thing was still an issue where we hadn't figured that out yet. And so I went back to work, and I went back to work for about 5 years.
So did
I
you
think it was
have a
4.
joint bank account that you were, so how did that work?
We
Like
still don't. We still don't.
so I am very curious about this.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a joint bank account.
Mm-mm.
You were at home for 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Did he pay you X amount a month? Like, where did the money get? Was this all out of your savings? Like, how did you survive? Oh, okay, out of your
Yeah, that
savings.
came out of my savings. And of course, he'd be like, I would give you whatever you asked for. It wasn't that, because he would absolutely, like,
Right.
you need anything, absolutely. It was the ask. I did not feel that asking was I felt that was very degrading, very
Right.
belittling
Right.
at that time,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that
I hear
space.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I went back to work, we had the opportunity again for me to come home, and I came home. I tried it again. Um, this was a little bit more successful, meaning I wasn't nearly as grumpy, but I also wasn't feeling the fulfillment at all.
So what
I
made you
tried.
quit the second time? Was it unfulfillment at work or was it too
It was
much
a balance.
stress?
Well, here's an interesting thing that happened when we got together, and I immediately, like pretty much from when we moved in, I became at home. So automatically, our relationship was trained that anything that happened at the house was a Vanessa job, and he was focused
Hmm.
on his external work, right? So
Yeah.
when I went
Yeah.
back to work, that mindset didn't
Didn't
shift.
change. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
So
you were
now
now
I'm
working full time and taking care of the
and
house.
taking care of the house, which
Yeah.
people would say, "Oh, that's like completely unfair. How could you have such a selfish husband?" Yeah, it's like that's not what happened. What he had was an overachieving wife who
Yeah.
said, "Don't worry, babe, I got that," because as per my idea of what I was supposed to do in this role, I am supposed to be killing it at home and killing it at work, and I got this, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
handle the blue jobs, mow the grass and shovel the walks. I got everything else. I got the kids, I got the dogs, I got the house, I got the job, I got it all. I don't.
Yeah. No.
That's reality. I don't have it all. So what was going to have to happen was either there was going to have to be a division of labor. We were going to have to sit down and share these domestic chores because we're both working outside of the home. We had to have a conversation where I said, I have to go back to work
Hmm.
because again, I've come home, I've righted the ship, I've got everything, it's humming again, balance is restored. But my mindset was just during these 8 hours during the day, I just have so much I want to accomplish and do. So I don't
Yeah.
want to be limited. So I went back in and I went back in mainly because I was stagnated at home. My kids, again, nothing but older, nothing but more independent, needing me less and less by the moment, right? I think at this point, one had actually moved out. So I just had the younger one who's now in junior high. I mean, it was our lives were pretty simple on the home front. And then, my husband sat down and he said, listen, babe, let's bring joy to our lives and let's figure out how to bring joy to our lives and what can we do to do that, because you're not fulfilled at work and you're stagnated at home and I'm getting nothing but busier and really need the support. So how can we come together as a team
Hmm.
to figure out the roles and responsibilities in our house that is going to make each of us live our best lives? And that was the conversation that was epic, because in that conversation, I said, well, here are my issues. Let's approach money. Let's approach, um, like, who's going to do what? What are the responsibilities here? And I said, if you want me to take on 100% of the kids, the house, the dogs, the yard, like literally everything, and you just want to go to work and come home, then I need to feel that there's value here
Hmm.
aside from just supporting you, because I will support you 100%. But I need, the way my brain works, I need to feel that there's a value proposition here, that I have some control, I have some autonomy in this situation. And he was like, okay. And I said, how about you just pay me a salary and I will work for a salary. That way I have some of our income split into my control. And we'll decide how, what I spend that on, but I get to decide that. It's not a we thing, it's a me thing. Just like part of your paycheck is a you thing. And then we
Yeah.
have our joint expenses. But now I have some autonomy where my resentment can be less, but I'm also contributing. So the harder I work at making life awesome here, the harder he gets to work out
Yeah.
there, and the more that grows unanimously, right?
Right.
We're getting raises together. And it was for
Yeah.
us that worked. That worked really, really well. And so now I'm successfully at home. It's great. I have my business. I mean, we did introduce me as being an owner, a small business owner, but my small business fits into my schedule the way that I want it to. That's
Yeah.
100% on me. That's the gap fill for me. And guess what that is? That's feminism. I have the choice to do this when I want to do this. I have the choice to be at home should I want to be at home. I had the choice to go to work if I wanted to go to work. All of these choices that we have are excellent. And that's what we should be embracing, is how to utilize those choices and
Yeah.
how to make those choices work in our favor. And that, like, our house has never been a happier space than it is right now. And I'm home. I don't need that like COO title. I don't need any of this, executive suits and 3-inch heels and lattes in the afternoon. Nope. I don't need that to feel like I have made it.
Well, and this is what I'm hearing is there is a maturity around your priorities. And
Mm-hmm.
just to backtrack a little bit, the second time you went back to work,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you really went hard to
Mm-hmm.
to fill that gap or that hole
Mm-hmm.
that you felt you had in your life. You
Yeah.
overworked. You were suffering some illnesses that were unattended for the time being, and then you had
Yeah.
no choice but to look at. And
Yeah.
and so I feel like there was a growth period there for you where you really had to come to terms with your priorities because you understood you had reached your limitations. Like you had
Yeah.
reached your place of, I can't do this and I can't do this like this anymore and I can't do it alone. So how can I come together with my husband to make this work and both of us be happy? Because when I go back to what you said at the beginning, you weren't able to have a conversation with him about this. And it wasn't that he wasn't willing to have it with you, it was that you weren't able to have it with him. And then by the
I didn't
third
even know
time,
that yeah, I didn't know it needed to be had. That's the
yeah.
most mind-blowing thing for all of this because when I went back to work, I was not going back to work and just sort of limping through. I was really successful. Like there
Hmm.
were wins, there were corporate wins all the way
Yeah.
through that were fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, but I still wasn't happy.
Yeah.
It wasn't filling the bucket at all. It was depleting the bucket.
Yeah.
And yet, externally, if you were to look, I mean, my God, the compliments women would give me when I was in that state of complete and utter burnout was, "You look amazing. Look at you. Oh my God, you are my rock. I look at you and I get motivated and I want to be like you." And I
Mm.
remember thinking, "No, you don't.
Yeah.
This is not what you want. Trust me, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
This is a complete fallacy.
Yeah.
I'm a fraud. I'm a walking fraud right now." So
Yeah. Yeah.
now it's authentic and it's wonderful to come together and to tell women, like, guess what? It's okay. It's
Hmm.
okay to support your partner. It's
Hmm.
okay to come home and love it. Guess what? That's all right,
And this is where
and
I feel feminism has, like, there's still so much work to be done for us to be considered equal. And I
mhm,
feel that this is where feminism kind of took a road that I'm not sure I want to be on, which is that we can't choose who and what we want to do in the household or in the relationship anymore.
mhm,
Where, like, to your point in the beginning, you had to be everything:
mhm,
the businesswoman, the career, the on top of the world, and also be the wife, the mother, the house, the caretaker, and daughter, and I mean you have family as well. So there are so many hats that we wear. So bringing that all together and really looking at where did feminism kind of go sideways there. You said it
I
was
think,
about choice,
yeah, I
choosing.
think
What would you say
somewhere.
to someone who maybe isn't necessarily in a position yet to
Mhm.
to to completely embrace one partner in the relationship to go and be the income earner and the other one to look after the house? What would you say to them?
Honestly, I would say open communication. I mean, for the most part, the men that I know are incredibly open
Hmm.
and honest and kind and leaning in to family. I mean, we've told men that it's important that they have roles in their children's lives. They don't just get to make
Yeah,
babies and disappear. And guess what? They've all listened. For the most part, they've
yeah,
leaned in and they want to be involved in their kids' lives. And I think if we can communicate with our spouses, with our partners, whether it's man, woman, doesn't matter, our partner, and we can say, hey, we have an authentic partnership, and I am looking for, this is what my ideal partnership looks like. What does your ideal partnership looks like? How am I best supporting you, and how are you best supporting me? And to have that without judgment, and if it turns out that, the traditional male role of outside of the home, if in your home it works that you go outside of the home and you're full time and he's part time, or you have the dominant paycheck and he or she, like your partner,
Mm-hmm.
has a less than role, guess what? That's okay. That's not a place for judgment. That's not someone, the boy's not taking advantage of the girl any more than the girl's taking advantage of the boy. This
No,
is
because contribution isn't just measured in dollars. It's and
exactly.
this is where I think this whole striving for being on top, our our the, measurement tools are off. Like we're measuring it only by numbers
Yeah.
rather
Well, I've
than
had
by the
say
quality or the true worth of the situation.
I've had some women say to me, when I was home, and even like not so much now, because I think they're approaching a different Vanessa now. Like I'm not meekly going, oh, I'm home. Now I'm like, people ask, what do you do? I'm like, I'm home.
Right?
Like
You're saying it
I'm
with a different confidence. I like that. Yeah.
yeah. But I think I've had them say, well, don't you aspire for more? Don't you want to do more? And it was like, define that for me,
Hmm.
because what do you mean by more? What am I supposed to be wanting to achieve in your ideal world? Because I'm incredibly happy doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So maybe let's change the receiving of this information from women to what brings you joy,
What brings you?
or what brings you joy,
Yeah.
what is your win at home? When a woman sits down and says, I've decided to step away from a career that I've worked for 15 years to establish because I've decided to have a family. Well, guess what? Boys can't have babies. That's just a biological fact. They cannot. So if you want to get angry because you stayed home and had the kids and he still got to work, I'm telling you, I bet you if they biologically could have a child, they would have stayed home and had the baby, but they can't. So to get mad at each other and say that you're now limited based on biology, therefore you're now disenfranchised because you've lost a year in your executive position because you chose to have children and you chose to step away. The key phrase in that is you chose to take on a new role, and that role was to parent. And in order to do that, you're adopting, you're having a child, you're either way, you're bringing in a new responsibility into this world. And with
Hmm.
that comes sacrifice.
Hmm.
So the sacrifices can be what's wonderful about feminism, and where it's brought us to is it used to be no choice, ladies,
Yeah.
babies, and you're home.
Yeah.
That's it. Now it's choice. And we should be so proud, and we should fight for the right to make our
Choices.
own choices.
Yes.
That's it. That's
Yes.
what we are going for. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
this, and this is such a beautiful discussion. Thank you so much for having this with us, Vanessa. And my hope for this episode is really that it sparks some conversation, or if not conversation, at least some reflection on how we're living into our daily lives and what we are like I always say, we vote with our dollars. Like, what are we buying into, literally and metaphorically? And how are we living into that on a day-to-day basis? And then I would love it if we can continue this dialogue, maybe in the comments below, and maybe we can, from that, expand into another interview of sorts or a live of sorts where other people can come in and join this conversation. I think this is so important because so many women, and I am one of them, have spent far too much time beating myself up over my worth and my contribution to a relationship and a partnership. And there were, do I dare say it? There were even times I chose to stay and remain single because I thought it was easier than having these types of conversations with a partner because I didn't want to resolve whatever uh, needed to heal around money, worth, and difficult conversation. And I don't even know that we need to label it a difficult conversation. We made this such
No.
a big deal conversation, um, that perhaps if we shifted our mindset from that and just uh, gave ourselves permission to be honest and to have
Mm-hmm.
and if you cannot have a vulnerable conversation like this with the person you are with and sharing a bed with, perhaps we need to start somewhere else. Like,
Yep.
it just needs to be had. And I
Yep.
think that that's where happiness really comes from, is by getting honest with ourselves first and foremost,
Yep.
and reflecting on that, and then bringing it forward to the people around us, whether it's our friends, whether it's our family, whether it's our partners, but for sure our partners. I
Yep.
mean, we're spending every day with them, and are building a life together. So I hope you found this really valuable. I would like to wrap it up here because you had such a beautiful ending to this, Vanny. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you so much. I love you.
I love
And
you more.
and we'll see you very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.